We are following up tonight on a Coin 6 investigation into daycare workers smoking medical marijuana on the job.
On the job. We have had so much reaction from this one. And when we turned over this video to the state authorities, they did a surprise check the next day. The daycare's license is still suspended, and now we want to know if laws will change because of this. After repeated requests for an interview, our Carla Castaño tracked down Governor John Kitzhaber to find out.
Governor Kitzhaber, can we ask you a couple quick questions?
Yeah.
Great. Can you tell us how are daycare workers allowed to smoke medical marijuana in the first place?
I'm not aware of the issue, but I'd be glad to research it and get back to you.
Okay, you did issue a statement about the medical marijuana provisions in the daycare after my story aired. Were you aware about that before our story?
Again, I'm not up to speed on this.
At this point, the governor's office had already given me information about emergency temporary rules going into place to address the, quote, loophole, allowing medical marijuana at daycares. And the governor's director of early learning told me Kitzhaber is worried about daycare providers smoking marijuana around children.
He continues to also be very concerned that we address anything that we need to.
But the governor's answers to my questions are leaving some daycare parents confused. One dad I talked to had his kids in childcare at Alphabet Academy for about a year. That's until the daycare's license was suspended after we gave the state our exclusive video.
Immediately, we went out to do a visitation. It was determined that the provider was not following the rules.
The father does not want his identity revealed until the Department of Human Services and the Office of Child Care investigations are complete, and hopes some permanent action is taken against the daycare.
They're doing a very thorough investigation on the daycare in regards to the medical marijuana on premises, as well as some other issues of possible daycare hour fraud.
The state agencies won't confirm exactly what the ongoing investigations entail, but I've learned the daycare has been investigated by the DHS fraud department before. I've also received a copy of the Alphabet Academy Learning Center's daycare license from the Oregon Office of Child Care, and found even though the state should have listed the provision on the license, there is no medical marijuana special condition on owner Mariah Yeager's certificate of approval to operate. That's even though I uncovered all special conditions should be printed on the bottom of the license, and the license legally is supposed to be posted for all parents to see. This dad tells me he never saw the daycare certificate and had no idea what his kids may have been exposed to. So you inform all the parents?
Yep.
As a single working parent, he tells me he missed possible indications.
A lot of warning signs. So, forgetting at school.
But with his grade school-age children saying it always smelled like skunk at the daycare, that's now the least of his worries. He says the state came and had his kids do urine tests for marijuana just this past Thursday. That's nearly a month since his kids were at the daycare. Are you frustrated at all that they didn't take the test a little quicker?
I don't think frustrated is really the word for it. I'm more really angry at the whole situation than frustrated.
The results were negative, but that led me to Washington Poison Control in Seattle, where the clinical managing director tells me drug tests ideally should be taken within a few days of potential exposure. And even then, getting a negative result doesn't mean the child did not suffer a secondhand smoke contact high. So it's fair to say these kids could be tested, could come up negative, but could have still been exposed?
That's true, yes.
Dr. Alexander Gerard explains with the recreational use of marijuana now legal in Washington, they've seen a sharp increase in calls to poison control from parents of kids impacted by secondhand smoke or who have gotten a hold of something like a joint or a pot brownie. He tells me young kids are much more prone to the impacts.
Increased heart rate, okay, for one. And then we also develop some what we call altered mental status, so a little bit of confusion, disorientation.
I found 39% of the calls they've had involving marijuana exposure to kids so far this year involved children 5 years old or younger.
There's a smaller body, smaller lung space, but they do tend to breathe a little bit more rapidly than adults. So there is the possibility that they could have an increased risk of toxicity from marijuana smoke.
Dr. Gerard says with the measure on Oregon's November ballot to legalize recreational marijuana, marijuana users must be extra careful when it comes to having it around kids, telling me even smoking pot outside isn't a safe option if children are in sight.
As a child, they should not be exposed to marijuana smoke, whether it be directly or by secondhand smoke.
Meanwhile, the governor's staff is promising sweeping changes will be coming in a couple weeks to protect kids at daycares from medical marijuana and heavy-duty prescriptions. Despite those emergency temporary rules, the governor didn't seem to want to tell me about what those new rules would mean. Okay, when will you be available for an interview?
We'll set it up with you.
Okay, because you've declined multiple interview requests. In Salem, Carla Castano, KOIN 6 News.
And we also found out last week authorities did random checks at the other daycares that do have provisions that allow the providers to smoke medical marijuana. And we learned all of them, except for Alphabet Academy, were following the current rules. For a complete list of those daycares, you can go to our website tonight, KOIN.com.